In the last video, we chose clips that are going to be used for the intro part of the wedding. Now we have our clips here. I'm in the color editing workspace of Adobe Premiere right now. The other ones I was in the default setting for editing. No specific reason here. I actually usually work in a custom workspace that takes up 3 screens, but for the purpose of a screen recording, I'm working in one, and this is just the last one that I used. So, the first thing I'm going to do here is bring in a music track. This is a track from audiojungle.com, but there's plenty of free, not free, but royalty-free music that is legal to use. Another great way to do it is very often during the dinner portion of a wedding. That would be between the first and the second dance. There's I didn't find anything that really spoke to me from this wedding, but I always give a quick look. Here's the dinner section before the first dance, and here is the main course section between first and second dance. Sometimes there's a track that just works well. I wanted something with a little bit more of a punch to it, so here's the track that I chose to start off this video. Okay, so we'll dive into that shortly. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to color code some stuff. So again, nothing specific, but wedding details. We'll go with magenta. Any of these clips that are just guests mulling around. We'll go with mango. Actually, want to make this a different color. And we'll make this one a dark blue. And all the clips, including the bride's entrance, that take place on the lady's side, we'll make magenta. So the orange and the magenta are pretty much the same thing. And then the clips from the men, we'll do something a little masculine. Let's just call it green. Okay. You'll notice there are a lot more of the clips from the men than there are from the ladies, and we're going to trim that down a little bit by not using everything there is to use from the men. The very first thing is that this... Okay, we'll get to that soon. I'm jumping ahead of myself here. First, we got to find a nice opening shot. So, some of these setup shots. Flowers. I kind of like this. I don't know if I really want to use that as the opening shot. We're going to go with the flowers. So, actually we're not. We have this nice faded out shot of the room. Okay, I'm just sort of looking through the footage. I'm getting inspiration. I don't really have one specific way or style that I do a wedding edit, and it's nice because I get complimented all the time from clients that they appreciate the fact that my videos don't look like they came out of a factory, and that they look different and they look like time was actually spent on each one. Should we start with this document? Okay, this might be a good way to start. This document, as I went through in the last video, details the it's the parents coming together and agreeing on certain aspects of the wedding, and the first couple lines of this pretty much just detail the time, date, place, and the respective sides of the two families. And the reading of that can actually make a very good intro clip. It's something I do in a lot of weddings, not necessarily every wedding. You kind of have to understand what's being read. You have to understand the Hebrew a little bit. But it takes a little getting used to, and once you get the hang of it, you'll sort of figure out where the cut points are. So So up till that point, we'll call is the intro portion of this. This guy is reading it a teeny drop too fast. We're going to see if he slows it down, if we could slow it down. Let's see what we can do. So we'll bump that over to the beginning. I'm going to mute this first soundtrack, and that way anything that's actually in this first line I will not be able to hear in the final edit. This will be the music track, and this third one down here will be audio segments that I would like to hear. So and let's sort of fade into that. I also want to change the speed of this, so let's see, speed and duration, maintain audio pitch, and we're going to see if we could slow them down just 10%. Okay, that kind of works. Fade this in a little bit. If we could get a shot of the contract being written. That one kind of works. That one works. So we want to, our goal here is to tell a story, and it's the story of the wedding. And I'm not necessarily looking for it to be a linear story where, you know, in a linear edit there would be, you'd have the wedding hall and details, followed by the bride's entrance, and just take it in order. It's gonna be a sort of linear edit. I'm not gonna take it completely out of order, but also I want people to open it up for the first time and not necessarily be able to guess what's happening next, and that little detail, that little element of surprise, either because we added nice music or because we used creative shots, that, you know, it keeps people watching. Let's see. Okay, now we can sort of put some wedding details. No, I don't want to put wedding details yet. We have these close-ups of that being written. You know what, there's a beautiful... Okay, so this shot right here, right at that point where I had to cut out music, it's we're introducing the first party, which is the groom's mom in this case, who's representing her son. So we actually have that really nice shot of the groom's mom hugging her son. So that is going to go there. That is going to go there. And also, I need some sort of a nice shot of the table, some sort of B-roll, so again, just some tables from the men. And I kind of like this one. We'll put that up. Okay. Sorry if this video is just sort of going in a little bit of a tedious direction, but this is how it's got to be done. Okay, so we have this clip and this clip, and we will put them over here. I'm just using cut and paste, and I have it preset to go into the tracks that I would like it to. So let's see. Okay, and at this point, from the words Umitsara Sheni, that's Hebrew from, and the corresponding side, so at that point he's introducing the bride's father, who is representing the bride. So we're going to go find a clip. I recall, so this is the bride's father, but I recall having a nice shot of the bride's father maybe pouring a drink. Let's see, I don't know if that's the case. There's the bride's father there, saying hi to someone. We're looking for this guy right here. We're looking for him. There we go. So there he took a drink with a friend, so that will good way to introduce Dad. And we're just the goal is to tell a story, and there's no one right way to tell a story as long as it actually makes sense. And this specific style, where I use this reading of the contract as an intro, is a little bit difficult to do, and it doesn't always work. Obviously, the person who's actually reading it has to be articulate and clear. In this case, he was reading a drop too fast, but I was able to slow it down to a level that is comfortable. It makes a nice introduction on weddings like the one we have here, where the video coverage began with the formal start of the wedding. We began video coverage with the invitation time, not earlier with bridal portraits and prep. On a lot of our weddings where we do cover those kind of things, so obviously your story will begin with the bride getting ready and the groom getting ready, and fun shots of their family during the portraits, and you can lead that up into the wedding. Over here, the whole thing just sort of starts, and we're looking for a more creative way of introducing the wedding. And like I said, it doesn't always work, but when it does, it tends to come out nice. And I'll do another video where I'll do a few videos with different versions of this beginning to show you, and I make it up as I go along, so there's no way to know when I start how I'm going to let this one go. So let's see how it plays out. Yeah, I'm not worrying about color or shakiness at this point. The exact cut points, all those things are going to be adjusted later. Okay. Okay, so I didn't do that on purpose, but this actually kind of works out that the point of this, I don't know what just happened there. The portion of this reading that I chose to use happens to end right where the music gets a little more exciting. So we're gonna actually make that work to our advantage. Okay, and let's see where we could take that next. Okay, so this is the rabbi discussing certain wedding details and obligations with the groom. It's the rabbi in the middle, the groom, and the bride's father. The groom's father at this specific wedding is not alive. Again, you really just got to know the Hebrew, but this point of it over here, the line that's being said is how the two sides have agreed to make a wedding, and they've agreed on all the details of the wedding. It kind of works with what they're probably actually talking about over here, is probably what's being read. So okay, and I kind of want to take that and go from there into... Let's see where I want to go with this. I want to take this and slowly go into some of the wedding details. I know what I want to do with this kind of faded. Let's see. It's a really nice shot. We're going to see if during the main ceremony, let's see, just before the main apologize for the coughing. There we go. Just before the main ceremony, I have some shots of the details. Sorry about that. Of the, okay, this like wine glass kind of thing is gonna work well right here. Let's see. We'll put this nice shot of where we're gonna now we're already getting away from this intro segment, and we're gonna try to bring our way into what are we gonna call it, the wedding itself. And I kind of want these two clips to fade nicely between each other, so a long, slow fade. A fade gives you the impression of the passing of time, or a change of time and place, or something sort of artificial. And we want to take you away from this sort of men's section in the contract and take you into the beginning of the wedding. And just gonna go to right where the music starts, and let's just make sure. Okay, that'll be perfect. So I'm going to show you what we have so far, and again, without a clear understanding of the Hebrew that's being read, it's going to be a little bit difficult. But you can trust me on this, that the first few lines begin with an intro statement. At some weddings, it discusses the date and time. This specific version of it did not, but it's an intro statement, followed by introducing the groom and his family, followed by introducing the bride and her family, followed by a few lines of how they've agreed to get married. The rest of the details of this contract we'll put in their proper time. This is really just for the sake of an intro. So let's see how it works. I'm actually going to add a nicer first transition. This is a transition pack that I had bought, so it's not a free transition, but they're nice. I don't like that one. Let's try this one. We might just go back to a fade. Or maybe I'm going to start with a black screen. We might start with a black screen. We're not gonna actually go through this too much in detail right now because I'm gonna do it later, but you see how this is, it's kind of a shaky shot, but it's not too shaky. It's a handheld shot, and you have this effect called warp stabilizer that really does wonders to handheld shots. It doesn't always work perfectly, and sometimes it messes with the clip, but more often than not, you get really surprising results. So here's the finished result. I'm going to show you again the without that effect. Alright, see all this shake? And now I'll show you with the effect. Sometimes it creates this sort of wavy and warped kind of look, and obviously you can't go with that. It kind of looks like it's underwater. But we can actually apply that clip to most of these first few clips. Let's just see what happens if we put it right on there to all of them. It's always good to save your work before applying these effects, because the program does occasionally crash. There we go. Let's see what it does. And wherever you see red, it means it hasn't rendered yet, but as they become yellow on top here, that is the clips being rendered. And now when we watch through it, we're just kind of looking for if the effect didn't work at any point. And I'm not working on color yet. I'm going to do that all the way at the end. That's smooth. That's smooth. Nice. Nice. Okay, that one you could see a little sort of warped it enough that you could see it, so we'll just get rid of the effect for this clip and let it be a little handheld. This screen right here I'm going to eventually use for a title, the bride and groom's names. So that's why I've let it go a little bit longer. Okay, now we can go into other wedding details, and we got these beautiful colorful clips. So this is kind of exciting and fun. And we'll start with this flower one. I have this one here of a table being set up. You can actually use that as the very first clip that shows up after this cut in the music. We want the cuts to go here. Now here it goes from the table, so we're just trying to make an order. So here's someone setting up the table, and the transition between these is going to be we want it to go with the music, so we have this sort of building drum roll is going to go well with this slow zooming transition. And now it goes, so she set the table, then you pan from the table to the flowers. The flowers is a wedding detail, so it stands to reason that the next shot we're going to do is more wedding details. Except here's another nice shot of the tables. So we're going to do setting the tables, followed by another nice shot of the table. We don't need that shot to run for so long. And that should do it. I don't want to overdo wedding details. That's not the purpose of a wedding video. The purpose of a wedding video is going to be the wedding. But it's nice to show it. Right, and now let's just see. These two clips of the ceremony section I'm not going to end up using for anything. And that shot of cookies, not going to use for anything. The shot of the place cards I kind of like as a transition from details into wedding guests. It's a wedding detail, but it really is about the guests. So now these other clips here, so I guess we'll go with, we want to alternate between wide and tight shots. So our last shot was wide, was tight. Right, we'll go those two. The fruit bowl, and that. The flowers might go well right before the seating cards. I'm just kind of putting things in an order that I think will make sense. And now we will make it line up with the music better. So there we go. So in order not to overdo too much of the same thing, because this shot and the next shot are really a wide and a tight of the same thing, I'm gonna show them for shorter. So it's a nice sweeping shot, so we could kind of let that one drag out a little bit. And then finally this one. And again, it's just luck that it kind of worked out with a drum roll in the music. So again, we're just going to go over what we have so far. So we have this title screen, which is going to have the bride and groom's names. And then we go from that into a more traditional wedding introduction with the wedding details. Alright, and I think at that point I've used all my, I found some more wedding details. But these shots of the food will go well with guests. Let's kind of see. We had the seating cards last. I would put this wide shot of, we use the seating cards as a transition. I like using actual footage for transitions whenever possible. You know, fades and stuff, they're good for effect. I don't want to use a fade because I have to. I want to use a fade because it adds something. In this case, seating cards sort of make sense to be followed by actual hits. need that full clip. So I'm just going to use, let's decide where I want it to go. I want it to go in there, and I like the second half of this clip better. So we'll just do that. And I also want to add sound. I want to bring a little bit of realism into this with the actual wedding sounds. Let's just hear what the sounds are. Yeah, it's guests talking. Alright. And what we'll do over there is we're going to fade the music out just slightly. So let's say we'll go to -8. And I want the sounds of the guests to begin before you actually see the clip of the guest. We're going to slowly fade that volume in. Let's go to the beginning of that, and we're going to make that audio transition drag out for the whole thing. It should be very subtle. I don't want it to overtake what you're watching. I just want it to be there. Okay, and now we're ready to put a little more of just guests sort of mingling. Let's just see who's in this shot. This is still before the formal beginning of the wedding, so everyone's just kind of hanging around. There's no specific order. I want to get rid of shots that... I want to use them, not get rid of. I want to use shots that actually have the groom in it at this point. Since once the wedding actually starts, the groom isn't going to be at this point in the wedding. So here's one with the groom. I mean, he's not the main focus there, but he's there. See any others? Here's one with the groom. We'll put that one in there. And the bride's father, who also is in that other room later on. So these will be the shots that I'm going to use at this point. It's slowly evening out. I'm also going to make the music fade back up. So again, it's going to be a subtle and slow, so we're going to make this audio slowly die out, and as it does so, we're going to put keyframes in the audio to bring the audio back to normal level. Okay, the beginning of that clip shook, so I'm just going to extend it. I want to try to use the portion of this clip that doesn't really have the groom, and we're going to cheat a little by zooming in just a little bit and just see these grandparents. There we go. That's it. Okay. Next, we could sort of put in, let's put in some stuff with the buffet. So, that. This one, so here, this, remember we always want transitional shots. So you'll see here, this is a shot of guests, but with the buffet in the background. So this is going to go with shots of guests. Then we have a close-up of that exact same buffet, but there's still a guest in it. And we could follow that up with close-ups of the buffet. We don't need those clips to go for so long. Right, they serve their purpose even shorter. Cutting the meat. Why not? And now, following the theme of buffet, I actually recall having some nice shots of the buffet on the men's side, and that gives us an opportunity. Here we go. That gives us an opportunity to transition over to the men. So that should work. I want the moving part of the shot, so there we go. There we go. We don't need the whole thing. I'm gonna use this opportunity to save over here. And you'll see over here the color will have to be matched. I mean, there's a little too much green and it's a little more warm and orange. So that's something we're going to do a little later, but it's going to be quite easy to do because we color-coded these clips. So keeping a timeline organized is extremely important. So we're kind of going to keep things consistent throughout the entire wedding edit, which is going to be this first video layer will be audio pieces that I also want to hear. Sort of like interviews and anything like that, or reading the contracts. This second video layer will be the regular, most of the wedding footage. Underneath it, the first audio layer will be muted the entire time, so any clip where I don't want to hear its camera audio, which there's going to be a lot of it, will always end up in that first audio track. The second audio track will be the music. So either music that I've added from royalty-free music or third party, or music from the band throughout the wedding will always go in the second track. And camera audio that I would like to hear will always go in this last track. And there's no right way to do this. This just happens to be how I usually do it. Next, because we color-coded things based on what kind of shot they are, the green shots all took place in one room. And for the most part, I had the same settings as long as I was shooting in here. So I should be able to color correct if these shots are, a little too cold or a little too warm, whatever I decide later for the look I want, I should be able to pretty much do the same thing across everything that's green. I should be able to do something similar. See, these all kind of have a similar look. And again, over here, all these shots kind of have a similar look. Um, so it's going to help us later on change things, right? You should see all these shots should be similar, right? Here's an exception to it, which I'll have to manually do later if I end up using that clip. Let's move on with it. I know this video is getting a little bit long, but this is the first thing people see when they turn on a video. They start playing. This is what they see. It's important that this is perfect. This is what's going to make someone want to watch the rest of the video. And it's like any movie. It has to be building and suspenseful. You know, they've already been to the wedding. They know what happens. You just got to show them how you as a videographer or an editor can tell them over a story that they already know, they already experienced, but that they can tell it over in a way that's unique and interesting, unique enough for even the bride and groom, the main characters of this exact event, to be interested in going back over and seeing again, and not just once, but we want them to hopefully watch it many, many times. Okay, so going back to editing, we've went from, again, I am a big fan of using the actual footage to transition between things. So we went from guests to this buffet, and then from the buffet by the ladies to the buffet on the men. That goes seamlessly. And now we can put more shots. Now you're seeing the walls in the men's room. The next shots can easily be something from the men. So we can use this crowd shot, which I'm actually gonna. That was random that I found it. Because again, it has that buffet, and it sort of clues you in. It's an establishing shot for what's going on in this room. And then I kind of like this, you know, the rabbi discussing things with the groom. There was another nice shot that I had of the rabbi discussing things with the groom. Because I went through all the footage already, I know what I have, I know what's there. This one. But there he's writing, so we're not gonna. Okay, we're gonna go with these three. Remember, the clips have to make sense one after another, so we're gonna put them there. Remember, as far as the video is concerned, we have not formally begun the wedding yet. So the clips we want to put here are more the mulling around and talking. The formal beginning of the Jewish wedding is typically with this bride's entrance, which we're going to get to momentarily. There's no specific reason that I waited till 2 minutes into the video to do this. I just, like I said, I do every edit custom. Every edit starts with a blank slate, and I let the footage inspire me, and I let the footage take me wherever this wedding will go. I'm going to use a later point in this because I want that buffet in there. And I want to switch that around. I don't want to just go from buffet to the rabbi and the groom. It didn't feel right, so I think if I use this detail shot first, that's my preference. I feel like that goes a little better. We're actually going to do something very untraditional here, which is going to be having a thought to put the remember, we still have quite a bit more men footage than we do ladies footage, which is fine. But I kind of want to put the signing the marriage contract. at this point. So we're going to find all the clips where they are going over the marriage contract, and that's going to sort of not fit in as well later on. It could, but I just... Alright, so over here, this one... These two, they are preparing the marriage contract here in all these. And we'll sort of take this whole thing. I'm not necessarily going to use every single one of those clips, but let's put them here in our timeline and let's see how we can make it into a story. So we have this. Okay, so see they're sort of going it over. That kind of works with that. Let's make sure it works. I don't like that it's too much of the same framing, so I'm not going to do that. There we go. That one will work. And that one. They're discussing the marriage contract. It's usually a nice moment in the wedding. And if you realize that at this point in the wedding, we have not actually seen the bride yet. At least in the video, which is fine as long as we are telling an interesting story. She's not gonna be missing herself. So they're talking. The next thing I want is a little bit of they're talking about the contract. Again, here's a different angle of that. I think that works. Now we're going to use the far shot of it. Actually, that makes more sense, because in this shot you actually see the rabbi going from discussing to writing. We'll get that point where he picks up the pen. Right, this shot ends with the paper on the table, so this one we want it to begin with the paper on the table. Now he's writing, then we'll go to a close-up of writing, and we already have them discussing. I don't need another one of that clip. This is the witnesses signing it. Here's the close-up of writing. This clip doesn't do anything for the video either. So here he's writing. Here you could see him writing in the background. And then we will have the witnesses writing. The only problem is I may need to put something in between there. And notice that clip is much longer than anything else we've done. But something's happening. And even though I don't like going just from one thing to another with two different people doing the same thing, but I think it works. there are rules in cinematography, and this would be breaking a rule where we have, you know, a sort of medium shot of two people signing the same paper without any sort of transition in between them. But when I'm actually watching it, it doesn't stand out as off to me. If it would stand out as off, it wouldn't be there. And just to keep everything consistent, we're going to put that on 2 over there. Alright, and I'm actually going to cut the track short there. It's a beautiful track, but we're not going to necessarily use the rest of it. I may use the rest of it as the closing for the entire video. The next thing that's going to happen is the bride's entrance. I do want to use the recorded sound from the band for that. So let's find that. And that looks like it began right here. And if we time it right, you're going to see this happen a lot more in our dancing videos. So right now I don't need the video clips. I'm just looking for that audio clip. When we do our... oops. Let's make that just go into the second layer there. When we do our dancing clips, you're going to see much more how we mix and match these sounds. So this starts with a cymbal crash by the drummer. We're going to find a point where this ends with a cymbal crash, and we're going to do what a DJ would have done to mix sounds and make it sound natural. Let's see how that sounds. We also got to make this one much louder. When I'm recording the band, I always, on a wedding where I'm the only shooter, or where there's just one shooter in general, I always err on the side of caution and set the recorder for much lower than it needs to be, because I can always bring up the volume. As long as it's picking up the band, I can always bring up that volume later. If it peaks and becomes weird sounding, I can't save that audio. So... actually, Adobe has, we're going to experiment with something, because Adobe now has this great, what about that? Adobe has this great music matching. So let's kind of see what that does. So we'll label this as music. Loudness, we're going to do auto match, and let's see if that brings up that volume. So it's saying that it wants music to be -12, which we're gonna go with it and just assume that that's normal as long as it's consistent. So I've done that to the audio track here, and this here we're gonna call dialogue. Auto match it for dialogue. These presets are amazing. This we're going to call ambience, and let's auto match it for ambience. And that was that crowd noise. Let's kind of see where this takes us. And one more thing we're going to do is let's do some auto ducking. And let's make this duck itself for dialogue. I don't want it to duck that much, so we're going to go with -5. Let's try that again. That sounds good to me. Oh, we can make it duck against ambient clips also. So let's get rid of my manual keyframes. I think to have other effects here where we can clip volume, duration, loudness, preset. There were some things in here. Oh, wrong thing. This is dialogue, and there was enhance speech for male. Let's see how that sounds. Sounds good to me. Here's without it. Makes it a little more front and center. So. These things with audio are usually things I do all the way at the end. So we're going to focus more on this a little later on. And again, that little bit of crowd ambient audio sort of lets you know that this was real. We don't want to completely cover up the fact it's not a music video. Sounds good to me. I'm going to fix that issue. The next shot, save our work, and the very next shot is going to be the bride making her entrance. So it's this section of shots over here. I don't quite know yet what order these are all going to go in. Right. These other orange shots here of crowd talking to each other, they're mostly on the lady's side, and it's irrelevant that when I actually took those, is the beauty of nonlinear editing. I make fun of editors who just edit linear edits in the 21st century. I mean, just because I shot this before the bride actually came in, doesn't mean it has to go there in the final edit. So, now when I'm telling over the story is where I want the bride to come in. And these clips here, they make sense after the bride's in there already, with the exception of a clip, this one I'm going to let go, but the only exception would be a clip where you clearly see the bride's chair empty, which you don't see it here. Nobody's going to pick up on the fact that the bride's actually not sitting there. The only one is this one shot where you see the empty chairs over there, and to fix that I'm just going to zoom it in just enough that you don't see the chairs, and that's it. Nobody's gonna notice that. So there are certain things that work when we're telling over a story. We have the beauty with these programs, Adobe and Final Cut and Vegas, any of them, to just decide how we want to tell the story. We are the storytellers. We can create something that's going to be interesting and entertaining to watch. It doesn't necessarily have to be in order. It has to make sense, but it doesn't have to be in the order that it was actually shot. So we're going to actually start with that opening of the door. And then we'll go to him. And I don't know what he was actually playing in that clip. It doesn't matter, but you hear the saxophone, and it doesn't look off. So that works for me. I happen to play the saxophone myself, so I can pick up on the fact that he's not pushing the right buttons, but nobody else will actually pick that up. There are times where you have a video of a musician and it just has to go in a certain spot. You see the musicians playing a certain way, and it's obviously being played to certain music. Maybe like a drummer doing a drum roll actually has to be used on the video when you hear a drum roll. And those are going to be things we're going to get to in dancing segments. Over here, this one works. As long as you hear a saxophone being played, we can put them in there. Now, these clips were shot in a certain order, but they don't have to be in a certain order. So we're going to use cinematics over here. We're going to try to do things in order. So we're going to alternate between wide and tight. Right. And she did have a long walk, but as long as it kind of makes sense. Let's put this clip in. Here. And I'm going to try to stabilize that later. So this over here cannot be followed by this clip here because they're pretty much the same framing, they're pretty much the same thing. So I can go from this clip and I could do a clip where she's walking from the back, or a clip where she's walking from the sides, but over here she's right by the chair already. And there she's sitting down, so I don't want that clip yet. We can go back to this clip here. And then let's just see if these three will sort of work in sync with each other. Now, this clip's going to be a lot longer than I would normally like, but I want to see her actually climb the steps and go to her chair. Now you see the sisters are all hanging out there. I'm pretty sure I had a clip. Yeah, you see like this right here could be the very next clip, I think. Yeah, see? This girl takes a step up, and then the next shot, she sits down. So the clips play into one another, and they work. If it wouldn't have worked, I would stick something else in between them. Let's go to a shot of the crowd. Now in this shot, you can actually see the crowd all looking towards the bride. This shot was actually shot just as she sat down. So they're watching her come in and sit down. So again, that kind of works. What I don't want to have is I don't want to have this girl talking to the bride and then follow it up with someone else talking to the bride. That just doesn't make sense. You could have a shot like this, where you don't necessarily see who the bride's talking to. Alright, so we could do something like that, right? There's clips of the bride now. Right, so you see the mom over there, and now the bride could be talking to whoever she's talking to. Right? That's okay with me. And again, this shot here is the bride talking to this woman in the black. I don't want the next shot to be the bride talking to someone else. So we could find the shot of the mom, but over here the bride's looking away. Again, everything has to add up and make sense. So we're gonna try to find something, a crowd shot. This one will work for me. Oops. So I want this wider shot to end off this little mini segment. Let's just find something. I don't want something with any of the moms in it because that would sort of, we just saw the mom sitting in the seat. So we're gonna go here and let's see what happens. That can actually be two shorter clips. If it's not the bride, it can be shorter. Actually, this kind of works because it looks like everyone's looking towards something. And then we'll put this one. Right. Now over here the music went from a high part to a low part. I'm going to use that to naturally transition back to something on the men's side. So again, just eyeballing our footage, we have all this green over here is stuff on the men's side. And this orange and pink is stuff on the ladies' side. We are going to sort of pick and choose what we actually want to use from the men's side because we have a lot more of it. It's all meet and greet, so just repetitive kind of stuff or stuff that I feel is not so important, we will do away with. We're going to completely end off this segment with this section with the mom. So that's the natural, so this event here was all one thing. So this, the mom's coming in, signing this agreement, which we actually used part of the audio earlier. The rest of the reading of that agreement, pull that down one more so the audio is in the right thing, and the breaking of the plate. And the breaking of the plate will be our last clip. We'll have the, usually after the breaking of the plate people will sing, so we have that guy clapping and then a wider shot of all the men. Everything else here I'm going to want to happen earlier, so I'm planning ahead. This little section here is going to be our ending before we jump into the main ceremony. And you see we're getting a little bit closer to even over here. It's not such a drastic difference. Because we had so much more on the men's side, I sort of did that thing in the beginning where I was able to use a lot of the men's footage. And now we're a little more even. So what I'm going to do now is keeping on going with the music that the band was playing, I'm gonna use a few clips from the men, a few clips from the ladies, a few clips from the men, a few clips from the ladies. Slightly favoring the men's side, meaning I'll put 4 or 5 men's clips and then 2 or 3 of the ladies, just to slowly even it out. And then we're going to try to end this little segment off with a clip of the bride before going into this section here with the reading of the document, and that will lead us into the main ceremony. I know this video is getting quite long, but let's hang in there for a little bit. It's going to move a little bit quicker now. So at this point, I don't care so much about the exact order of the clips, so we'll just drag a bunch of clips there. And I'm only going to switch it if they don't work. So I'm going to get rid of this clip, reason being it's the rabbi talking with the groom, which we've already had a lot of already. Not that it's not important, but I feel like we've shown quite a bit of it already. Man pouring a shot, that's let's see. No, we don't actually have to show that whole shot. We don't have to show that full length shot. We can show him pouring and then picking it up, and that works. It doesn't, you know, your mind subconsciously puts in the missing pieces, and you don't have to extend the video longer than necessary. So stuff that are just general guess, I'll tend to show it for a little shorter, and stuff that actually include the bride and groom, I'll tend to go for a little bit longer. Let's put in a few of the bride. So we'll put a shot of, you know, I want to go for a little bit longer with the men. These clips of the documents and stuff are not going to be, you know what, they may end up being useful down here in this ending segment. The last shot had the groom in it, so I don't want to just show him talking to one person and then talking to someone else. So we'll have the bride's father over there. And now let's see who's in this shot. So you can't actually see the groom over there, so the next shot could be someone talking to the groom. Alright, and that clip's a little bit longer, but two things actually happen in that clip. And let's find one more shot that we can kind of use to end off this segment here. And I'm going to go with this far away shot. Let's see if it works. I think that works. Now we're going to put some of the bride. Far shot like this will work. Right, showing the clip for a little bit longer, provided that it's actually an interesting and entertaining clip, will also even out the fact that we have a little bit of an imbalance. These clips of guests, just one. Okay, there's one of the mothers. There, she's actually walking away over here, and that will kind of work well. Sorry for the thinking out loud, but that's going to work well over here, where you kind of see her walking away, and then you see her in this room. So we're going to use that a little later. Here we have a shot from a different angle, so let's see how that plays. I think that's actually the same two girls. So there we go. Those clips definitely go together because this girl is still sitting in the seat. Alright, now we'll put some of the just guests talking. These clips can go for shorter. That's the mom, so we're gonna drag that one out a little bit extra. Oops, I cut out a clip unnecessarily there, and over here we'll switch back to men. Looks like there's going to be one more section of each. So, and Rabbi with the contract we could cut out. Remember, we're looking for excuses to get rid of stuff from the men. Just the two of them sitting there I'm not going to need. This shot of the contract sitting on the table can go later, as well as this one. I may or may not use it, but it will work as a clip later on a little better. So let's begin with this one now. So here you see everyone sort of sitting at a table over there, including the groom. So the very next shot we'll go with some guests, and then we can go with someone talking to the bride's father. The reason that works is over here there's no one sitting next to him, but in this time where we show this clip, someone could have sat down next to him. The brightness changes in the middle of that clip, so I'm just going to use the part where the brightness is a little more steady. So. And now I don't want to have the bride's father standing because in the last shot he was sitting. So we're going to wait on a few of these clips. Here's someone greeting the groom, and you can't see the bride's father, so that works. Remember, we just need things that work together. The groom was just hugging someone, so the next shot will kind of make more sense if it either doesn't have the groom or we'll see. Oops, that cut was a little bit off. And again, there's something happening that's interesting to watch in there, so the clip could drag out a little bit longer. was the last clip. Okay, so this rabbi here was talking to this person. In this clip here, he is alright, sorry about that quick cut. Phone call I had to take, and this is all live. We're not pre-planning anything here. So this rabbi was taking a shot. It may work to then see him go over to the groom. We'll see. The clip is a little too long for my liking. I'm not going to do that. We'll take a shot that... or a nice shot of the crowd. There we go. There we go there. How about, you know, we'll go for a few of the ladies clips here. So let's take that one. I like that shot of someone talking to the mom, and then a different shot of someone talking to the bride. Let's see how these work. Alright, and then we'll put a crowd shot there again. Alright, just a little short segment, just throw in some of the ladies stuff. And now all these are gonna sort of be our last bride segment. Let's see, we still have quite a bit of possible choices for men's stuff, so I'm just gonna single out a few of the best shots or most important shots. So we have all these people greeting the groom. Here's just a random guest shot, so that will work well to divide up a shot of greeting the groom. Here's another guest shot, so we'll put in another shot of the groom. Oops. Right there. People looking, and another hugging shot of the groom. Now we need, there we go, another guest shot. And then another hugging shot with the groom. Someone talking with the groom. We'll put a guest shot first. I like this talking shot, it looks nice. This shot here. That was the one that was out of focus, so we're gonna do without it. And another guest shot. A shot with, okay, this is actually that guy that was out of focus hugging the groom, so we could get him in over here. These are people pouring a shot. We've had quite a bit of alcohol already, so we can do without that one. That's a really nice shot. We're going to skip that one too, and see what that one is. And we'll probably skip that one too. And we don't need every single shot at this point in the wedding. And I may not even use every single one of these. It's a long kind of segment, so let's just see how it goes together here. I only really want the end of this where the rabbi is greeting the groom himself, so. Next. We want that to work, the music, so. Those two clips don't really follow one another. Let's see about this one. We might have to make some exceptions over here with it. Yeah, and it's okay. It's a wedding video. We want to create the memories, so it's okay to have something that's technically cinematically incorrect. But I do have another inspiration over here, so. These three clips that end off here, we can just mix in with bride stuff. So let's sort of alternate between them. I think that'll work. And boom. What was this one here? And that's a mistake clip. Let's make these line up with the music, and then we're kind of done this segment. So. And that clip we kind of don't need, so. That's it. There we go. So we just sort of alternated back and forth over there. Now we want to kind of go into this. Forgot we have this clip of the mom getting up, so. And that's going to kind of work over here, so. Alright, she's leaving, and then we see her coming in, and that'll be a good place to actually put a traditional fade. That's the perfect point for a fade. She walks out of the room, and then she ends up in the next room, but you don't see the whole thing in between. A fade tells you that something happened in between. Here's a close-up of it, so you see the rabbi walking up to begin talking to them. Okay, and let's see what we have next. So next we'll use this clip of the contract coming out of the bag. I'm not going to use that one for anything. I am going to use the different people signing it. And again, we didn't make it work with time yet. Oops, we need that audio to go with it. I don't know why it's unlinked. Let's make the cuts and timing work now. We don't need such a long segment of that guy signing. And then we'll have the other guy signing. And I think... And then we're going to sort of fade out the music and let it go back into the reading. Sometimes I'll put the whole contract again. In this case, I'm actually gonna let it slowly fade in during this signing thing. We're not starting from the beginning because we had some of this in the beginning. So I'm not gonna use the auto ducking for this because I want it to happen extremely slowly. So I want it to go from here to here. It's gonna slowly fade the music completely out. And let's see what that does. Fade over there. I don't know why that level thing didn't work. Oh, because the volume effects are off. Okay, I know what's happening here. I had that set to a higher volume from before. Your exact volume doesn't matter so much as long as it's very consistent. I've been finding that these loudness, auto match, this kind of makes it work. So watch. And we're just going to let it roll to the end at this point.
I'll come out the customer first to Elov and one of the customer in Mikra Bay. But calls Charter Vakayam, Nasapa, Baltimore, Maryland, the Test Tavis, Thompson, Ayakast, Naum, Avi Mordechai, Ben Avram, Yitzhak Aid, Naum, Yitzhak Chai, and Better Fall Aid.
That's it. I want that singing audio. This music here can be cut short at that point. We can actually cut it short earlier and bring this onto our, no, that's good. You don't actually hear the audio anymore once it reaches this point. So this again will make this dialogue and auto match. And we'll just fade out of that, and that's gonna go right into that song that they're singing. Happens to be the exact same song they're gonna play that the band will play during the first look. That'll be our next segment. So up to this point, we've edited, with one exception. I haven't been very good about my consistency over here. Let's bring these all up without moving them over a little bit. This one here I'm going to leave up because I just want it to fade with the clip before it. You got to make exceptions sometimes to make things work. But that's it. This is a very neat edit. The color coding is going to help us find clips for color correcting later on, and you can also get just a very good visual right now of how the video plays. And when you watch it, you want it to tell a story. But looking at it like this, I see it switches back and forth between the greens and the magentas. We sort of have our details right here. This section, which is green in the beginning, I happen to know is my intro section, which pretty much features clips from the men's side. And there's a lot of things that we're going to stabilize later on, and there's a lot of color correcting we're going to do. But at this point, we're going to leave it to building the edit and telling a story. Formulating our story. So I think that's going to be it for this video, and in the next video we will get into the main ceremony, and we'll take it from there. The main ceremony I edit slightly differently. So again, to recap, this was additive editing. We chose clips from our original footage and only stuck clips into the timeline that made sense to use. I then organized them by type of clip, so men's, ladies, decor, and things like that. And we used, and then we built a story. So the exact way you choose to build a story doesn't matter. You can go with the super traditional, which is show the wedding details, followed by the entrance of the bride, and then just go back and forth between the men's and the ladies, culminating with signing the contracts, reading the document, and breaking the plate. That would be the traditional edit, and I'm going to do another video where you'll see that style. This one, I wanted to have a little more fun with it, so here you have it. And again, as long as the story works, it tells a story, it makes sense. When you watch it over afterwards, there's nothing that just makes you look again. It should just flow normally. It should feel like you're at that wedding. Then we've done our jobs as storytellers. So next up is the ceremony, which works in a slightly different style, and I hope you'll join me for that.